Fans were informed for years that Kevin Costner left Yellowstone to concentrate on his own film project. Many individuals accepted the tale without inquiry since it seemed straightforward. However, a completely new image began to take form as further interviews, insider reports, and public declarations surfaced. Costner himself said that a lack of dedication was not the true issue. One of television's greatest performers was gradually forced out the door by months of delays, missing scripts, shifting schedules, and a behind-the-scenes dispute. Few people could have imagined Yellowstone's level of dominance when it debuted. The series converted a contemporary Western drama into one of the most talked-about programs in America, and made Paramount a significant participant in original television. Kevin Costner's portrayal of ranch patriarch John Dutton was at the heart of that triumph. The program gained immediate credibility from his appearance. Costner wasn't just another TV star joining a well-liked show. He was already one of the most well-known actors in Hollywood, having starred in films like Field of Dreams, Dances with Wolves, The Bodyguard, and Open Range. For many observers, Kevin Costner was just as much a part of Yellowstone as Taylor Sheridan. Costner became inextricably linked to the Yellowstone brand as the show's popularity skyrocketed. The series' emotional center was John Dutton. In the end, he was at the center of every significant disagreement, family strife, and land dispute. Costner's participation attracted elderly viewers who may not have otherwise watched a television western, according to industry analysts. That success was mirrored in the show's ratings. Yellowstone ultimately rose to become one of the most popular cable dramas in the U.S., as viewership grew with each season. However, the project was becoming more and more complex behind the scenes. Yellowstone was no longer Taylor Sheridan's only concern. He was in charge of many projects at once as his television empire grew, including 1883, 1923, Mayor of Kingstown, Lioness, Landman, and Tulsa King. Sheridan was now among television's busiest creators. Although that achievement improved Paramount's rapport with him, it also brought forth scheduling issues that would eventually become a significant cause of conflict. Costner said that he was still dedicated to Yellowstone and anticipated the show will go for a number of further seasons. Costner said he first thought he had an agreement covering seasons 5, 6, and 7, in comments subsequently provided to Deadline and other publications. There was no public indication at the time that season 5 would be the show's conclusion. It was anticipated that John Dutton's tale would continue to develop for years to come. Serious issues were already emerging behind the scenes as audiences enjoyed one of television's greatest achievements. These issues would ultimately lead to one of the most contentious departures in contemporary television history. Months of discussions, public accusations, and contradictory media stories. Additionally, Costner claims that the first red flag was when the production schedule ceased acting like a typical television show. When Yellowstone's 5th season deviated from the production plan Costner had first agreed upon, it was a turning point. The actor thought he was operating under a defined structure that would enable him to balance Yellowstone with other projects, according to many interviews he subsequently provided, including talks with Deadline, GQ, and The Today Show. He was not prepared for the production schedule to grow more erratic, leading to months of uncertainty regarding the actual date of shooting. Paramount's choice to split season 5 into 2 parts was at the heart of the controversy. The concept was rather straightforward on paper. In the entertainment business, splitting successful television seasons has become a standard tactic. But according to Costner, the action set off a series of events that had an impact on every facet of scheduling. Production was spread out over a significantly longer length of time, rather than finishing the season inside a predictable time frame. The future timetable was still unknown as the delays started to mount. Later on, Costner clarified that he often modified his own plans to take Yellowstone into account. The fact that Horizon was not intended to take Yellowstone's position in his timeline is one of the most crucial facts that is often missed in media reportage. Costner said that this was not the case. He said that he purposefully scheduled work on Horizon around the television show, and that Yellowstone consistently kept the top spot. He made an effort to adjust his film obligations whenever Yellowstone's timetable changed. However, there came a time when it was difficult to deal with the ongoing uncertainty. Costner said in his interview with GQ that he put out a number of ideas that would enable him to finish the second half of season 5. He was adamant that he wanted to complete the tale and carry out his responsibilities. However, he claims that the required scripts never showed up. There was no realistic way to plan his own time, arrange teams, or set up shooting dates without finished screenplays. Negotiations persisted, while production plans remained uncertain, which made the situation even more difficult. Media stories started to tell a different story as the delays continued. Stories that suggested Costner was restricting his availability and only intended to work for a limited time were reported by a number of entertainment sources. According to unnamed sources, he was causing producers scheduling problems and demanding special treatment. The public's perspective of the battle was rapidly shaped by these articles as they appeared in Hollywood newspapers and on social media. Costner vehemently denied the assertions. He maintained that the truth of what was going on behind the scenes was disregarded in the reporting. He said that since so much time had already been squandered, he was only able to give restricted availability close to the conclusion of discussions. What started off as a schedule problem that could be handled has turned into a logistical nightmare. Costner believed that he was being held accountable for issues that had been growing for some months. Dates on a calendar were no longer the only point of contention. It had turned into a conflict over accountability, public opinion, and who would be held accountable in the event that Yellowstone's future plans failed. The disagreement transcended private discussions and became one of the largest television scandals when additional stories surfaced in the media. Costner would openly express how irritated he was with the whole thing. Kevin Costner was mostly silent throughout the crisis, with the discussion dominated by Hollywood insiders and unnamed sources. Many viewers started to believe that version of events as true as media kept implying that he was to blame for Yellowstone's issues. According to several reports, Costner was preoccupied with Horizon, the grandiose Western film story he had been working on for years, and was hesitant to devote enough time to the series. According to several sources, he was tough, demanding, and adamant about putting his own project ahead of the television program that had revolutionized his career. Eventually, Costner made the decision to react in public. He immediately contested the narrative that had been emerging around him in a number of interviews. He told Deadline that he had become irritated since a lot of the rumors going around were just untrue. He said that without knowing what had really transpired behind the scenes, people were talking about the issue. Costner claims that the depiction of him as the antagonist in the Yellowstone tale disregarded months of uncontrollable production issues. During his appearance on the Today Show, he made one of the most powerful remarks. Costner clarified that he anticipated a professional production schedule that would enable him to plan his next projects after working on the series for 5 years. Rather, he said that Yellowstone often had delays that caused everyone to wait. Costner claims that at one point, a whole year was essentially lost. He informed the program that he could not continue to put his career on wait forever if production dates remained unknown, and that he wanted to work more than once a year. The claim that Horizon was meddling with Yellowstone was also denied by Costner. He clarified that he tried to organize Horizon around Yellowstone, rather than the other way around if schedule issues occurred. According to him, Horizon turned into a handy justification that diverted focus from the actual problem. He said that he had constantly made himself accessible and sought for methods to fulfill his obligations to the series. The assertion about the texts themselves may have been the most illuminating. Costner said that after protracted talks and several setbacks, he arrived anticipating the start of filming, only to find that no screenplay was prepared for him. He said that the whole process collapsed at that very time. Without finished screenplays, there was nothing tangible to film and no trustworthy schedule for proceeding. Things just disintegrated, according to Costner's subsequent description of the scenario. The actor was also dissatisfied with what he saw as the production team's lack of assistance. In subsequent interviews, he implied that when rumors about him persisted, no one came forward to rectify the public record. From his point of view, he had kept his word, made many scheduling adjustments, and continued to be eager to work. However, accusations that he was to blame for Yellowstone's issues dominated public discourse. Another development was subtly altering the situation as Costner loudly defended himself. An actor and a production timetable were no longer the only parties at odds. The friendship between Costner and Taylor Sheridan, the creator of Yellowstone, attracted further attention from onlookers. Behind-the-scenes disputes began to surface, and some sources said that the relationship between the two most influential characters on the show had become more tense. As further information emerged, it became evident that there was much more to this tale than just scheduling delays. Taylor Sheridan gained more attention as the controversy surrounding Kevin Costner's resignation continued to make news. He was now one of the most influential people in television, managing many popular shows and growing the Yellowstone world into a vast franchise. Many industry onlookers started to question if Sheridan and Costner's relationship had reached a breaking point, since so much of Paramount's success was attributed to his efforts. Neither guy attacked the other directly in public, but according to sources from Hollywood, tensions had been rising for a while. Journalists covering entertainment started writing about two very successful and equally driven individuals attempting to keep control of one of television's most precious commodities. Sheridan was overseeing a growing television empire that required his attention across several shows, while Costner was preoccupied with safeguarding his schedule and meeting obligations to Horizon. As a consequence, even little disputes might escalate into significant confrontations. Following Costner's formal resignation, one of the most talked-about stories surfaced. Industry media said that there were increasing difficulties behind the scenes with respect to artistic choices, production schedules, and Yellowstone's future course. The abundance of reports from several sources indicated that the relationship between the show's star and its creator had become more tense, even if many facts were still hard to independently confirm. Then there was another dispute. Costner and actor Wes Bentley, who portrayed Hammy Dutton, allegedly got into a furious altercation, according to a report published by The Hollywood Reporter in late 2025. A source cited in the news said that Bentley had complained about the show's continued emphasis on Costner's character. According to the source, before others interfered, the argument turned into a physical altercation including pushing and shoving. Although there were apparently no punches thrown, the tale immediately garnered a lot of attention since it supported the idea that tensions on set had escalated to an unprecedented degree. Later, Bentley's spokesperson admitted that an emotionally taxing sequence had resulted in a work-related fight. Beyond that assertion, however, very few specifics were formally verified. It became difficult to distinguish reality from rumor, as is the case with many Hollywood disputes. While some publications referenced people who were purportedly present during certain instances, others mostly relied on anonymous sources. It was nevertheless evident that off-screen drama was overshadowing Yellowstone's closing years almost as much as the television narrative. In the meanwhile, another unexpected occurrence revealed that Sheridan was starting to feel unsatisfied with his circumstances. Later, it was reported that he had struck a significant deal with NBC Universal, which would start when his Paramount contract ended. The contract might be valued up to $1 billion over 5 years, according to industry publications. According to many stories, Sheridan had become irritated with Paramount's new management, financial constraints, and what some people called a lack of regard from executives. It was hard to miss the irony. Kevin Costner's departure from Yellowstone has been the subject of public debate for years. Eventually, however, Sheridan was also getting ready to quit Paramount. In the end, both men were dissatisfied with the state of one of the largest television series, despite the fact that their situations were different. But at that time, Yellowstone had already surpassed its limit. As the show drew to a close, focus started to turn to what would happen to him once Yellowstone was finally over. When considering all that transpired, the most remarkable feature of Kevin Costner's exit is how the narrative varies depending on who is narrating it. The explanation seems simple to many casual observers. Costner departed because he intended to turn Horizon Yellowstone into a barrier. The repetition of that version contributed to its ultimate acceptance as popular knowledge. However, when Costner did discuss the matter in detail, he did it in a way that was much more nuanced. Costner repeatedly reiterated the same main point in interviews with Deadline, GQ, and The Today Show. He stated that the circumstances that finally led to his departure were brought forth by Yellowstone's increasingly erratic production schedule. He said that there were frequent delays in the series. Timelines shifted without warning. Long periods of time were wasted, while everyone waited for choices to be made, and scripts were not completed on time. Every time he publicly addressed the issue, his reasoning remained astonishingly constant, regardless of whether viewers agreed with his perspective. The fact that Costner never fully shut off Yellowstone is another noteworthy aspect. Costner often professed love for the program, in contrast to many high-profile television exits that culminate in public disputes and acrimonious remarks. He recognized the influence of John Dutton on his work and viewed Yellowstone as significant to him. He made it clear throughout his today that given the right conditions, he would be open to going back. That comment stunned many fans since it hinted that the relationship was broken, but not necessarily beyond repair. After leaving Yellowstone, Costner concentrated primarily on Horizon, a project he had spent decades attempting to put to the cinema. The first 2 chapters were issued, although both suffered financially. According to accounts, finance constraints subsequently hindered preparations for future installments. Costner publicly recognized that finishing the remaining chapters would be tough. In remarks quoted by Entertainment Weekly, he likened the procedure to moving a large boulder uphill and refusing to let it fall back down. The comment revealed exactly how intimately committed he remained in the project. Meanwhile, Yellowstone continued along without its key player. John Dutton's leaving led the writers to significantly rework the last chapter of the series. Fans instantly observed that the conclusion being recorded was not the finish initially envisioned when Costner was still slated to participate. In many respects, the finale of Yellowstone became characterized by the absence of the guy who had helped make the program a cultural sensation. Perhaps the greatest takeaway from the whole ordeal is that Hollywood disagreements are seldom as easy as they look in headlines. Rumors, anonymous leaks, contradictory information, and charges from various parties were all visible to the public. Beneath all of that, however, was a complex economic conflict involving contracts, timetables, screenplays, production delays, creative objectives, and 2 influential people attempting to defend projects that were very important to them. Therefore, the answer to the question of why Kevin Costner really left Yellowstone is far more nuanced than a single film or a single argument. Costner claims that he didn't leave because he had lost interest in Yellowstone. After years of uncertainty and delays, he lost faith in the production's capacity to provide him with the stability he required, so he left. One thing is certain, whether or not viewers agree with that explanation, Kevin Costner's departure permanently altered Yellowstone. One of the most contentious events in Yellowstone history is still Kevin Costner's departure. Depending on your perspective, he was either the cause of the show's shift in direction or the victim of a production that was no longer able to be scheduled. There is little doubt that Yellowstone was never quite the same after John Dutton left. What are your thoughts? Should Kevin Costner have found a way to complete the series, or was his departure from Yellowstone justified? Tell us in the comments section below. For more behind-the-scenes tales from Hollywood's top actors and TV series, please remember to like, subscribe, and enable alerts if you liked this video. We appreciate your viewing.